Right now, £1,000 can build a seriously capable gaming PC in 2026. But where you spend that money matters more than you think. Spend too much on the CPU and suddenly your GPU could suffer. Cheap out on the power supply and the entire system can become a risk. And with DDR5 prices and storage prices the way they are, it makes it even more crucial to get these things right. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I would spend £1,000 on a gaming PC today. Not just the parts list, but the thinking behind each decision so you can see where the money actually makes the biggest difference. Now, prices move constantly, so depending on when you're watching this, you might find better deals. But based on what's available right now, this is how I would build a balanced £1,000 gaming PC in 2026, targeting that 1080p gaming performance or sort of very solid 1440p performance. So, let's get into it. Before we jump into the parts, I set myself 3 simple rules. First, the system has to stay under £1,000. Second, it must be available right now, no fantasy deals, no discontinued hardware. And third, it needs to stay balanced and relevant for the performance that we're aiming for. Because one of the biggest mistakes when building a PC is overspending in the wrong place. You will see CPU and GPU pairings that just will not make sense in other builds, or flashy RGB components that can look great but won't give you any more gaming performance. So the goal here isn't chasing specs, it's getting the best gaming performance possible right now for the money. So let's start with the case, because airflow is just one of those things that people often overlook. It can make a huge difference when it comes to temperatures and the overall system performance. For this build, I've gone with the MSI MagForge 100R, which comes in at around £44 to £45, and at that price, it's a steal. It supports full ATX motherboards, you get a full mesh front, which is great for airflow, and it includes 4 fans out of the box, which is pretty good at this price point. On the front I/O, you've got 2 USB ports, audio jacks, and a dedicated RGB controller button. And despite supporting ATX hardware, it's a relatively compact case, so it doesn't take up loads of desk space. It's also consistently reviewed as having excellent airflow, which is exactly what we want for a gaming PC. Next up, the CPU. Originally, I was planning to go with the Ryzen 5 7800X. It's been one of the go-to CPUs for AM5 builds, but whilst I was pricing this system up, I actually found the Ryzen 5 9600X available for roughly £170 to £175, and in some places, that was cheaper than places were selling the 7800X. So that made my decision pretty easy. The 9600X is a Zen 5 processor with 6 cores and 12 threads, boosting up to around 5.4 GHz. Zen 5 also improves instructions per clock performance, meaning stronger performance even without increasing the core counts. But the biggest reason for choosing this CPU isn't just the chip itself, it's the platform. This build uses AMD's AM5 socket, which means the upgrade path is much better than jumping onto older platforms. Yes, DDR5 is still considerably more expensive than DDR4 right now, but choosing AM5, which means you're much more likely to extend the life of this system with a simple CPU upgrade later rather than replacing the entire platform. And with CPUs like the 7800X3D or the 9800X3D and future Ryzen chips available on AM5, there are plenty of strong options to upgrade to. Now, once the CPU was decided, the motherboard choice became much easier. I did look at a few options here, things like the B850 boards and even some micro ATX boards to try and save a little bit of money, but in the end the Asus TUF B650 Wi-Fi at around £109 offered the best feature set for the price. This board supports DDR5 memory, PCI Gen 4 NVMe storage, built-in Wi-Fi and 2.5 gigabit LAN, which is actually much faster than standard gigabit networking, I might add. You also get multiple M.2 slots for storage, a solid VRM for power delivery, which helps keep that CPU stable whilst it's under load, and at around £109, it gives us a really solid AM5 platform without eating into that GPU budget. Next up, memory. We can't ignore this is going to be one of the most overpriced parts on this list. RAM has been one of the most frustrating parts for us to price recently. Demand for high performance memory has surged. largely driven by the AI workloads and the data center demand, which has pushed prices up significantly. Some kits that were much cheaper a year ago are now substantially more expensive. For this build, I managed to find 16GB of DDR5 6000 kit at CL30 timings for around £175 to £180. For Ryzen systems, DDR5 6000 is widely considered the sweet spot, giving excellent performance without paying extreme prices for faster kits. Now, ideally, yes, 32GB is becoming more and more common, but honestly, 16GB in almost all of my testing has proved just fine. And at this target resolution of 1080p to 1440p, 16GB is gonna get you by. The only downside with this particular kit is it has no RGB, it's plain Jane, but you know, that only matters to you if it matters to you. And right now, I'd rather the performance. And for that price, it's the best deal I could find. Now, let's get to the star of the show, shall we? One of the most important parts of the entire build, especially when it comes to gaming. It's the GPU, because this is actually what determines that gaming performance. In this price range, you'll see options like the RX 7600, the RTX 4060, or the newer generation cards like the RTX 5060 and the 9060. These cards can absolutely work, but many of them, although some of them come in 16GB variants, come as 8GB at this price point. And while that can still be usable today, it's becoming more and more challenging in modern games. I actually covered that in more detail in another video, so if you want to dive deeper into 8GB cards, check out that video over here somewhere, whichever side it's going to be. Now, for this build, I went with the Intel Arc B580. Now, it comes in at around £260, and I'll be honest, historically, I've usually leaned towards AMD or Nvidia GPUs, but Intel has come on leaps and bounds with their drivers. I really mean that. Panther Lake, which is just on its way out at the moment, is an absolute phenomenal achievement in such small form factors. But the performance here and the compatibility and the stability has improved massively since it originally launched. And the big reason this card stood out to me is the 12GB of VRAM, which is just becoming increasingly important as modern games continue to demand more and more memory. Intel also offers its own upscaling technology, XeSS, an AI-assisted upscaling technology that's similar to Nvidia's DLSS. It's not quite as widely supported, it's nowhere near as mature, but that support continues to grow and the performance gains are significant. The card itself draws around 190 watts, which is comfortably within the power budget of this system. And at £260, it offers excellent performance at that value. Now, from a storage perspective, this is another area where prices have changed quite a lot recently. Just like RAM, storage has also been impacted by the demand from AI and AI data centers. A drive like this would have been £50 to £60 cheaper not too long ago, to be honest. And for this build, I've gone with a Crucial P310 1TB Gen 4 NVMe drive, which comes in at around £125 to £130. Now, there were a number of options in and around this price mark, some a little bit cheaper, but from brands I had very little knowledge of. I'm actually running 2 Crucial drives in my PC right now, and I have never had an issue with them, so I went with something I could fully stand behind. I also went with 1TB because I think that's the best starting point for PC gaming. Dropping down to 500GB might save a little bit of money, but that space can disappear incredibly quick. Some games like Call of Duty can easily take up 200GB or even more on their own. So starting with 1TB gives you a lot more breathing room to download more games and to have a few games at your disposal. In terms of speed, this drive can reach around 7,000 megabits per second, keeping that system feeling extremely responsive. And once you're above PCI Gen 3 speeds, the real world difference in boot times or game loading is honestly very small. It's not something I typically notice, and yes, you can measure it, but you're not going to notice that much. Now, the power supply is the one component you never want to cheap out on. Now, I've gone in this build with an MSI Mag A650GL, which comes in at around £70. It carries a 80 plus gold efficiency rating, which essentially means it converts power more efficiently compared to lower units like 80 plus bronze. High efficiency ratings also tend to indicate better internal components and overall reliability. Under gaming workloads, this system will likely draw around 350 to 400 watts, so 650 watts gives us plenty of headroom. And that's where 80 plus gold and higher quality components comes in clutch. Now, if you did want to stretch the budget slightly, moving up to 750 watts or even 850 watt power supply isn't a bad idea either. You don't have to spend too much more to get there, and it's going to give you more headroom for future GPU or CPU upgrades later on. But for the sake of keeping this at the price point we're aiming for, I have gone for 650 watts because that's all we need right now. Finally, we have the CPU cooler. Now, there's one company out there that's really been taking the cooling market by storm, and it's Thermalright. They've released a huge range of coolers that perform extremely well whilst staying at a very affordable price. For this build, I've gone with the Thermalright Assassin X, which costs around £18. Yeah, £18. It's a simple tower air cooler, but it delivers excellent performance for the price. It's going to have ample cooling headroom for that 9600X. However, if you did want to go further, Thermalright even have very affordable AIO options at not too much of a stretch of a price. But for this system, the Assassin X is just more than enough to keep temperatures under control. So when we put everything together, this is what the build looks like. CPU is a Ryzen 5 9600X. For the GPU, it's an Intel Arc B580. The motherboard is an Asus TUF B650 Wi-Fi. RAM, we've got 16GB of DDR5 6000. Storage is a 1TB NVMe drive. For the case, we've gone for the MSI Mag Forge 100R, and the PSU is an MSI Mag 650GL, and the cooler is a Thermalright Assassin X. That total cost right now comes down to £979. A fully modern AM5 gaming PC for under £1,000 with some serious upgrade options. So that's how I would spend £1,000 on a gaming PC in 2026, a balanced system that focuses on gaming performance without wasting or chasing specs. If you're still deciding though whether building a PC in 2026 actually makes sense right now, you might want to check out one of my other videos right here where I talk about whether building a PC in 2026 is actually the right move and sort of give you 3 strategies to work from to get one done. I'll also drop all of the parts used in this build in the description below, along with some of my other recommended components. I'd also love to know what you're planning for your next PC build and what's your budget. Let me know in the comments below, and if this helped you in any way, drop a like and subscribe.